and thank you for tuning in to Sports Etiquette with Evan and Evans. Today, we're going to come at you with a little bit more of a worldwide episode today. We're going to not just be talking about America, we're not going to be having as hard of hitting subjects as last time, but we're going to get into the nitty gritty behind the business behind sports and how that's changing, regardless if it's baseball, hockey, basketball, football, whatever. So, anyways, we do want to start with what we think is somewhat of the most exciting thing going on at the moment, which is the fact the World Series is about to come up. And the fact that both of the two remaining teams in each division are battling it out, and there's kind of some surprises in who's left. So, as we know, right now, it is the Nationals versus the Cardinals in the NL, and in the AL, it is the Yankees versus the Astros. Now, these are not necessarily the teams that won the divisions, not necessarily the teams that were favored to win it all, especially in the NL. But Evans, as we know, the Braves and the Dodgers. What happened? Where are they?
They completely melted down.
Oh, totally.
Like melted down, self-destructed, imploded. I don't care what word you want to use, but they totally just completely fell apart. Like right at the end too.
Yeah, they
Right in the
started off
last game.
strong too. Yeah.
I mean, the Braves, my God, they got 10 runs dropped on them.
Oh,
Dropped on them in game 5 in the first, that's right, the first inning.
wow.
I mean, it was a nightmare. I hadn't even had time to turn on the game yet. I was still putting dip in the bowl and get my chips ready. And it was like already game over. Don't even worry. Put those chips back in the bag. Put the dip in the fridge. You
And we'll
know.
save it for next season.
Oh yeah, for real.
Oh man.
I mean, it really was a nightmare. And I mean, the pitching. I mean, our pitchers just imploded.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what's interesting is I think that everybody knew that the Braves could hit. I mean, that was obvious. They have Albies, they have Acuna, they got Freeman, people like that, Donaldson even. But then we knew. I mean, look, they had to get Dallas Keuchel three-quarters, well, like halfway through the year, just to have any hope at having a decent starting rotation. And the reason he wasn't signed is because his peak had passed. He's on the wrong side of his career. So, that being said, though, Evans, if the Braves get a little bit of pitching in the offseason, what's the next year looking like?
I mean, the pitching is what we need.
Right.
We need pitching. We need guys. I mean, Ozzy's got to grow up a little bit. I mean, loafing into the bases, like, I mean, I'm still upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for those of you guys who don't know, Ozzy Alves, it's game 1, loafed around first base, hit a huge bomb, ended up only being what should have been a triple turned into only a double. And he ends up being called out at third base, which, I mean, if the next guy went up and hit a double, so he would have had, I mean, he would have had that run, and that might have changed the whole course of this playoff series because that just put a damper on the team after that. We were just bummed, and we ended up blowing that game almost. I mean, we ended up taking it into extra innings, and we ended up pulling it out at the end, but it almost blew the game for us.
Right. And, well, if you want to talk about momentum shifters or what could have happened, in game 2 of the Dodgers National Series, it was 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, bases loaded for the Dodgers, and they had one of their more promising hitters. He's been injured for about 2 years now, Corey Seager up at the plate. And if you want to talk about having a momentum shift, if he hits a single up the middle, 2 runs score, they win. They were only down 1 run at the time, and they would have been up 2-0 in the series. They would have gone to Washington. They ended up capturing 1 game. Next thing you know, the Nationals are out, and it looks like the Nationals are heading to the World Series now. I mean, these just little momentums, and that's the beauty of baseball, if you ask me. Now, I've played it. I love it. For me, it's something that I notice, but that's the thing about baseball. Is there's these one pitches that change a whole season. There's one at bat, whatever it be. And that's the beauty of playoff baseball. I mean, look at the Giants, the San Francisco Giants. A couple years ago, they won 3 championships. they just got hot at the right time. They were by no means the best team in the playoffs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Their
Yeah,
pitching just turned it on,
right,
and
right,
it was literally like a light switch. They
When-
just went from good to above great, and just
exactly.
torched every team they went up against. But I gotta ask you a question, Evan, because
Yeah.
I mean you were making a pretty good point before the podcast about pitching and in the MLB. So I gotta ask you about your man Kershaw.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel at this point, I mean, you know, I love to crack on Kershaw, cold Kershaw, ice cold Kershaw, Kershaw on ice.
Yeah,
I mean,
Kershaw
yeah, I gotta.
in the playoffs alone is just a joke.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened this year, man? Because I feel bad for him now. I mean,
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what happened to Kershaw in years past. This year, I know what happened. He's old. His back is hurt. His arm is hurt. His miles per hour on his fastball is down. His curveball doesn't quite hit the same when it doesn't. When you're seeing a 30-mile-an-hour difference between a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and then a 65-mile-an-hour curveball, it looks even more significant than that. But now he can't do that, and he hasn't quite evolved as a pitcher yet to be able to not have the 95 plus above fastball. So I trust him to take that step. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I know what happened this year. He's tired, he's old, there's footage on him. But in years past, I don't know how he choked. I really don't. I'll always wonder.
so what's the move for Kershaw going forward?
The
Because I know a lot of people, there are a lot of Dodger fans that want him out, but there are some Dodger fans that I think that want to see him have a redemption. This
Well,
team is
no
still
doubt.
good and they're still young.
No doubt. And something you were just talking about is the maturation of players and with Ozzy Albies. And to be honest with you, I think that one of the problems that the Dodgers have had is they've had either players that are too young with too old of veterans, and they haven't been able to mix, and they don't have enough experience throughout the lineup. And I think that's something that actually is going to be coming here in the next season or two. But to answer your question, I think that he is pretty untradeable just in the sense of a organization because it's pretty hard to get rid of your number one selling jersey and the one that the fans like the most. But I wouldn't be surprised if we never see a dominant Kershaw again. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down as the most dominant player in the regular season and the worst postseason pitcher ever, and goes down as a top two, three guy to never win a World Series.
Wow, that
Truly.
would be amazing because he's so dominant in the regular season.
Yeah, no, I mean his stats are. I didn't quite realize that he was very comparable to Sandy Koufax, who I think
Yeah.
is amazing. I mean, that's the only jersey I have. I've grown up as a Jewish baseball player idolizing him. I didn't actually realize that Kershaw even came close, and he actually does.
Oh yeah.
Obviously not postseason wise, um, but I sadly think that we're kind of headed down a road where him and Mike Trout might be the two greatest players of the generation, and neither of them win a championship, and they both happen to be in Los Angeles. um,
Another pretty big L for the LA area.
yeah, yeah. We actually take a fair amount of those, but that's a whole nother story. But going back to just this postseason really quick, like I said, the Nats, miracle. They're the Giants this year. They caught at the right time. I mean, they do have front of the line starting pitching with Strasburg, who has been lights out,
Lights out.
and then Scherzer, who has all of a sudden looked unstoppable since like Game 2 of the first in the division series. I mean, he got kind of shelled a little bit in the wild card game, had a little bit of trouble, and then all of a sudden came in and was dominant in the inning that I saw him live, and since then has been just fantastic. Um, but also, I mean, look, like we were talking earlier, the Braves and the Dodgers. I mean, they were won their division. The Dodgers were definitely a favorite to make the World Series out of the NL, and they're nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, the Nationals are up 3-0 over the Cardinals, and you have the Yankees and the Astros battling it out using their pitching. It's just insane to me. I never would have predicted that the Nationals would be there, but they were the best of the wild card teams.
That is true. I've been more surprised at the Braves Astro or not Braves, Yankees Astros series. I thought it'd be a lot more high scoring than
Mm.
it is. But you're absolutely right. It's just been a battle of wits and pitching.
Yeah, I mean they
Old school, just
they don't really have, well, the Yankees I shouldn't say, really don't have a great pitching staff. We know that the Astros have Greinke, Cole, and they have for Justin Verlander, which are three fantastic starters. But right now, Greinke is not coming through. Cole goes today, so we don't know how that's going. But look, the Yankees, the fact that they stole a game in Houston is huge. And now the team that everybody had winning the World Series is tied at one, and the Nationals are looking like they're going to have time to rest Scherzer and Strasburg. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if the that could be the worst thing for the Nats, though, considering they're so hot.
yeah, to a certain extent, they have had to grind for about 2-3 weeks now because they did have to do the wild card game and everything. But you're totally right. I believe that in the playoffs, sitting is a curse. But
Right.
then again, it's baseball and they play every day, and then maybe a couple days off would be fine. Now, transitioning into predictions or topics that we may have covered in the past, like the Braves, the Dodgers, we want to just kind of follow up some things that we've been talking about and give you updates. Just like Vontez Perfect,
Oh
he
yeah.
is still suspended. It was upheld. They even found another instance where he hit somebody in the head and didn't even have it be found by either video or the refs the first time. And then we have Antonio Brown,
Right.
who
It's the Vontez perfect thing is like if a guy breaks into a house and he asked it to get reviewed and they actually found out the charge was even worse. Like he broke into the house with a gun or
right,
something.
yeah,
And so now he's going to jail for even longer.
exactly. It's like I broke into a house and then I told them to investigate and they realized I broke into two other ones.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much we won't be hearing from old Vontez for a while.
Yeah, the XFL is calling.
Uh, ring ring.
Ring ring.
Vontez.
Vince McMahon also may be giving a call to at the moment ex NFL player Antonio Brown. What's the latest with him?
So Antonio Brown, I watch his Twitter like a hawk. He said that he expects to be back in the NFL in the next couple of weeks. He still is naming Robert Kraft by name that he owes him money, like they were like in some card game or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Maybe he was the cheap Asian woman at the rub and tug.
yeah.
Maybe it was just Antonio
Oh
Brown.
yeah. Oh man. But yeah, he's saying like, yeah, I think he owes me money, but he might as well let me come back and earn it and play for them. Please sign me.
Which is the most Antonio Brown one-sided idea comment ever. Which is like, I'm gonna sue you, and I think I'm gonna win because I'm somewhat ignorant. So you might as well let me play with the goat.
Yeah, that's like when if you get in an argument when you're a kid and your mom's like, say you're sorry and you're like, I'm sorry that I made you feel bad. I'm sorry that you feel bad.
There you go, exactly.
You know,
Oh
I
my
mean,
god.
but and so staying on football for a second, we're going to talk a little bit about South Carolina because they just beat Georgia, ranked
Yeah,
number 3, in between
exactly.
the hedges. Woo! Man, I'm hyped for this win.
Yeah, no, we wanted to just update you. We talked about South Carolina football a lot, and they happened to pull off the biggest upset of the season so far.
The biggest upset of the season, and we talked about it before this season.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, I pretty much gave you a list of. I mean, as we know, South Carolina has the hardest schedule in the country. Not even a joke, number one. So we knew that they were going to get something, that one of these teams had to slip up. We were thinking it was going to be Alabama because in the last time that they came to South Carolina and played, they were upset when they were number 1 in the country. So that didn't happen. Tua pretty much went lights out in the second half. But with this Georgia game, I think we all had the inkling, but we didn't want to get our hopes too high just because of what happened I mean, this team lost to North Carolina in the season opener.
Which was like their easiest game of the season.
Yeah, that pretty much. I mean, besides like a Division II team, yeah, that was our easiest. I mean, that it was Appalachian State.
Yeah,
and
but
it was App State and in North Carolina.
Right, right.
Yeah, so pretty much this Georgia game, we came into it and what I am really happy about is they just fought so hard from the first second to the last second. They never stopped fighting. The defensive line won the line of scrimmage that day. They forced Jake Fromm into throwing 3 interceptions to Israel Mukamu. We speak your name, Israel Mukamu, because he is the 6'4" sophomore cornerback that had 3 interceptions and a 53-yard pick six. And Jake Fromm had come into this game throwing 0 interceptions.
Right.
So, I mean, that is the hero of the day.
Well, also they battled through adversity. I mean, quarterback got hurt, a bunch of things like that.
Yeah, Jake Bentley went down at the beginning of the third quarter with a cheap shot. I mean, the ball was 2 feet out of his hands, and the guy lunged at that moment and straight into his knee. You hate to see it. He was out for the game. They had to put him in a brace, but he did practice today,
Oh,
so he will most likely be playing against Florida. Again, another top 10 ranked opponent that we have this week.
oh.
Yeah, the fun never stops in Old Columbia. But so I just wanted to say, with Georgia taking that L, Georgia still hasn't really gotten into the roughest part of their schedule. So I mean, there's still a chance
Well,
for South Carolina to win the SEC East.
oh my goodness.
Yes,
Wow.
statistically, there is a chance.
Wow.
And I am putting together the yarn here. I might be losing my mind, but I think there's a chance that we do it.
Oh,
If
my
we upset
goodness.
Florida
Right.
again,
Right.
and I'm going to the game, it'll be my first game in Williams-Brice in over 5 years,
Mm,
so I'm ready.
there you
The
go.
lucky charm is returned.
I love it. And on top of that, I mean, that's just a big recruiting win for South Carolina. Just to
Huge.
have that on their resume and say, look, we play these big dogs every year, and if you don't get a scholarship offer from them, come to here and get angry and play them.
And if you want to look at the bigger picture too, Kirby Smart was going to be our coach after Spurrier. We had already interviewed him. We were going to sign him. And Georgia was like, oh, crap. They fired Mark Richt and pretty much flew Kirby overnight to Georgia and signed him right up from under our noses.
Uh-huh.
So we ended up taking the next best guy, like the only other guy that was really on the market, which was Muschamp.
Right.
I think this win proves that Muschamp is catching up to Kirby when
Right.
recruiting wise. Like
Yeah.
you've got guys that can beat that team and go and play with them for all 4 quarters
Right.
and beat them off the line of scrimmage.
And Georgia has the easiest schedule in the SEC this year. So if they're losing, if they're not
They haven't
going
even
undefeated yet, and they have the easiest schedule, they're not top tier in that conference.
and they have yet to play Texas A&M,
yeah, yeah,
who is legit.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now talking about what we talked about earlier in the sense of predictions or just comments that we had, I want to point out, and this is not to brag, but we were totally right about the Cleveland Browns.
Totally right.
We were just like, look, they're the Browns. And
I
you
mean,
know what they're doing? They're being the Browns.
And to be honest, like the Americans that know football and that aren't bandwagon fans, they knew this was going to happen. It's
Totally.
the Browns. The Browns are going to brown it up. Kitchens has never been a head coach before.
Nope.
Baker Mayfield, #1 in interceptions in the league, overrated.
Yep.
I mean, I still think he's going to be good one day, but I mean, right now he's looking like God, who's that quarterback? Orton? He's reminding me a lot of Kyle Orton right now.
That's a lot of interceptions.
Look, Kyle Orton, but let's remember farther back to the way back times when we were kids. Everyone thought that Kyle Orton was one day just going to come out and be the man for that Broncos team.
Yep, no
and
doubt.
they put together an awesome team around him. They had, these
Brandon
big,
Marshall.
these like all pro wide receivers. And he went in there and he Kyle Ortoned it up.
Yep.
Threw a bunch of picks. Like basically, was kind of like feisty, like in press conferences and stuff. I mean, I'm really thinking Baker Mayfield is like a slightly better Kyle Orton.
Oh, that's fantastic. The more athletic version of Kyle Orton.
Oh yeah.
So I could not agree more that Baker is overrated. I mean, look, you got this guy Daniel Jones in New York who was just about as shocking a pick as there is, and he kind of looks better than Baker. Now, granted, he's a rookie; they don't have all the tape on him and everything, but a guy who wasn't expected to go where he did is kind of outperforming the number one overall pick Heisman. Now, we all know Baker Mayfield has a great story. I mean, walk on, scholarship player, Heisman. You can root for that kind of thing. But that team, the way that they're talking, is totally unroot forable.
Dude, I don't think Freddie Kitchens is a coach.
No, he's not.
Like, I think they're letting the inmates run the asylum,
Right.
and he's just there, and they're like, yeah, you can wear the hat and just kind of hang out on the
Yep.
sidelines. And I don't think they have his headset connected to anything. He's just yelling in his headset. And I mean, the last game, they God, I'm trying to remember what the penalty was. I think it was like a it was a pass interception, or no, it was a pass interference, excuse me. And Freddie Kitchens took like 5 minutes to figure it out and took a timeout. Like, and then he went over and talked to the refs about it, and he figured it out. And then he called a challenge on the play, and they were like, after already burning a timeout, and they were like, you know what, we're gonna stay by this original call. I mean, in Freddie Kitchens, it's like, okay, you just wasted like
Two timeouts.
They should give him another penalty for wasting everyone's time.
Oh,
Like, look, Freddie, we could have ran like at least 7 commercials during
Yeah, we
this.
could
You're
have made a
costing us
couple million
money.
bucks. Yeah. Oh my god. Well, and
There's WWE SmackDown commercials to run, Freddie.
yeah,
Come
no
on.
kidding. Well, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Odell. I mean, we know he can catch. There's no doubt about it. But not like him and Jarvis Landry are, setting the world on
I
fire.
mean, Jarvis Landry's playing much better than Odell at this
Well,
point.
and I don't
As
know.
someone who drafted Odell, like, as their second overall pick in fantasy, like, pretty much regretting it right now.
The biggest stat to me for the entire Cleveland Browns season, besides the fact that Baker Mayfield has the most interceptions in the league, is the fact that all of a sudden, since he came to Cleveland, Jarvis Landry has now only caught 60% of the passes that have hit his hands. Not just thrown to him, but hit his hands. Where when he was with Miami, 89 led the league, 89% in catching the ball. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Baker Mayfield's pass. I don't know if it's Cleveland's sun is in his eyes. I don't know what it is, but that to me is alarming.
It's Freddie Kitchens, man.
You think that he gives him stone hands?
Dude, Freddie Kitchens, I think, just doesn't get that team prepared. I don't think he gets the team prepared. I don't think he's caught like he has them in the right offense.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the most alarming thing for me, all right, the Browns are 2-4. They're 0-3 at home.
Oh, that's very telling.
Right.
Oh wow.
The only 2 games they've won are away games. I mean, they can't win at home with the dog pound where it's so sold out and everyone paid top dollar for these tickets this year.
Well, and not only that, but they finally had some hope to actually go with.
Right.
Just in the sense of like, we can actually come on Sundays to watch this team and not know we're gonna lose for sure.
I mean, they are the only team I think in the league that hasn't won. I mean, there's the Titans, the Redskins, the Dolphins, and the Buccaneers, and those are the teams that have not won at home.
Oh.
And those teams are all bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're at the bottom of the barrel bad, probably going to be your top 5 draft picks. And I mean, the Browns are right now, they're tied in their AFC North division with the Steelers. And the Steelers, well, the Steelers lost all their main players.
That I should say, yeah.
And they haven't had Ben Roethlisberger at all. Yeah. And their quarterback, I think, almost was murdered on the court. I mean, that was one of the scariest things. That's definitely the scariest thing that's happened this football season.
Right.
Because that guy got knocked out.
You know, he might play next week.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
He was knocked out.
He was out
in front of my eyes.
Yeah, and he's gonna play next week.
Yeah.
But anyways, just our final prediction that we got correct. We did a segment on Andrew Luck when he first got hurt, and we compared him to Matt Stafford, a couple of number 1 overall picks that have had somewhat same history, let's say, in the sense of team record, with obviously Stafford being a little worse, but team record and injury history. We said that Matt Stafford was not a bad quarterback at all, and that he might be just as good as an Andrew Luck, and he's proving that. And they should have won last night against Green Bay.
They should have won that game.
And he was throwing some beautiful passes. His wife, who had cancer, was in the crowd. I just want to say that they have a 4-2-1 record, and that we kind of called that they wouldn't be as bad
Or
as, or they have a 3-2-1 record.
2-2-1.
Oh, 2-2. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting a little ahead of myself there.
No worries.
But we just want to say we kind of called him not being too bad, and that the Lions are not a laughing stock like maybe the Browns are. But as much as those were all NFL predictions, we've said a lot about the NBA hasn't started yet. A couple days, it's going to be exciting. Evan's birthday.
On my birthday, Lakers, Clippers, be there in your living room watching the game.
Right. And then hockey season's just getting underway, and for baseball, we've kind of been wrong, just to be honest. But we want to continue now with the theme of football and talk about how we each have a couple teams that have either surprised us or disappointed us this year. And Evans, who's kind of that for you?
Ooh, I'm loving it. Winners and losers of NFL. So I gotta give a winner. Is a little bit biased to my Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, it's biased, but it's the truth. Christian McCaffrey, we all knew he was going to be a top 3 fantasy pick like this year. He always does great. I mean, he's a receiving and rushing threat. He's just incredible. And this season, he's not disappointed at all.
Oh,
he's putting on a show.
Amazing.
Yeah, MVP caliber.
Right.
Last week, he had more total yards than the Jets offense. I mean, he's really putting on a show and telling everybody, "Hey man, I'm the leader of this team now." Cam Newton's out. Cam Newton is taking a hiatus to get better. And we've had Kyle Allen in. Kyle Allen has pretty much game managed us to 5-1, and we're at the top of the division with the Saints. And I mean, I really can't complain. A lot of people are trying to hate on. I mean, because they know I'm a big Cam Newton fan, so they're trying to hate on me, Evan. They're trying to hate on me.
I know everybody's asking you, do you ride with Kyle Allen and trade Cam Newton? What's the deal? I've heard a couple people ask you that.
Dude, I ride with the Panthers. That's what I tell them. Like, I like Cam Newton. He's great. I hope he comes back and balls out. Because, I mean, I think this team, when Cam Newton's healthy, he's an MVP. And the team's definitely better when you have an MVP at quarterback. I mean, especially with Christian McCaffrey the way he is right now.
Well, and you're so right, because Kyle Allen is just a game manager. Cam Newton's the kind of guy that'll win you a game. He's going to scramble for 25 yards. He's going to hit the pass, and then he's going to figure out how to hit McCaffrey on the screen or whatever. But you're so right. Anytime you have an MVP caliber player, it's going to help.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Allen hasn't lost us any games,
which is huge.
But I don't think he's really won us any games either. I mean, his passing's been good, and he's made all the good reads and everything. And I'm not hating on Kyle Allen because I think the Panthers are in a great position. Let's say Cam Newton comes back week 9. We get a straight adrenaline shot to our offense. I mean, we pretty much can figure it out from there. Or if we decide we want to trade him, I mean, Cam Newton, we can trade him to somewhere like the Redskins or some. I mean,
he's definitely got value. I mean, he's going to help you one way or another. You're going to either get some assets, or he's going to come in and do well.
Or even trading Kyle Allen.
Right.
I mean, he's a rookie contract.
Well, isn't Cam Newton a free agent after this year or something like that?
He has one more year.
Okay, so maybe they won't quite get rid of him, but I like that idea. I'm always up for getting assets, no matter what I have to do.
Right.
Now I'm going to continue with surprise, and I would have said the Panthers, but there are 2 teams that really have surprised me. First, I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints, just because of how many injuries they have and the tough schedule that they did play. I mean, and they could be undefeated. They only lost by 2 to the Cowboys. Teddy Bridgewater has totally been able to manage the game better than I thought. He has definitely not won them any games besides maybe one, but he hasn't been horrible. Considering the injury he had and the time he's been out, I thought he may have been horrible. Michael Thomas didn't start off having the deep ball threat that he usually does, but instead now he's working almost out of the slot and he's being successful. Now, a team that I have tied with them for surprising me is the Green Bay Packers. They pulled off a victory last night. It always seems like Aaron Rodgers is upset, especially at his head coach. And I'm talking this year specifically. I mean, if you look at his facial expressions, he looks like he's just always pissed. Um, and the fact that they only have one loss, granted, like I said, they should have lost last night, but I'm amazed. They're without their best player at wide receiver, Devonta Adams. And the guys they have out there I've never heard of are not physical specimens, and they're still getting it done. Granted, their defense is a lot better, but who knew? Who knew? I mean, you take Devonta Adams off that team and you tell me they only have one loss, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah,
Laughed.
I mean, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's and then same with the Saints. You were to tell me Alvin Kamara would be having only an average year, and that Drew Brees would
See,
be
I
hurt.
could have told you that though.
No, and Drew Brees would get hurt. I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
Then
I wouldn't have been able to
and
guess
they'd only
that.
have one loss and could technically be undefeated. I would have laughed at
I
you.
mean, the Saints are the type of team is they get. It's almost like they pick a number before the season, and whichever running back or wide receiver gets the number that was in the hat is
You
the guy that gets like almost 2,000 yards that season.
yeah, they just have like a bunch of wishbones in the locker room.
Oh
Whoever
yeah,
gets the biggest half. Oh hey
they're
man,
like, oh man, Ted Ginn,
you're getting 30 carries today, and you're gonna catch the ball 10 times.
great, Alvin Kamara, like awesome.
You lost again this week, so you suck.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I feel with the Saints. The team that's kind of surprising me this year, though, it's like in a negative
Yeah,
way,
who's a negative team? Who's like, oh my god, they stink.
the Chiefs.
Yes.
The Chiefs last season were, I mean, they were like pretty much Andy Reid's wet dream of a team.
Well, and every fantasy owner's wet dream.
Oh, of course.
Oh my god.
I mean, if you had, man, I mean,
if you had Hill, you had any of the running backs, you had the quarterback. I mean, it
yeah, if
didn't
you had
matter.
Mahomes and Hill packaged,
Oh, you won it.
yeah,
last
you're
year.
killing the
Yeah.
game. I mean, you're just killing the game. But I mean, I think it's partially because 2 weeks ago Patrick Mahomes rolled his ankle.
And it's still a problem.
It's
Nobody
still a problem.
believes me.
And I forget who was commentating that game, but he said it right as he rolled his ankle. He was like, "Yeah, that's going to be a problem for him for the rest of the year."
Wow.
And I mean, it's so prophetic,
Yeah.
and it's totally coming true, and you can see it. Even they had Hill back last week, and Hill, he got his touchdowns.
He got two, but he only had 3 catches.
Right, two off. I mean, he got his for sure. He's always going to get his, but Mahomes looked hurt back there,
Yep.
and I think they're starting to get a little figured out. If you
Oh
can
my
get that pressure on
Exactly.
Mahomes and kind of throw some different blitz packages at them, and maybe it looks like you got one guy, one safety back in the secondary, and you're going to blitz your strong, and then all of a sudden you drop back him and a cornerback, and it really is starting to mess with his head.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I think that there's tape on him. And when you don't have a mobile Patrick Mahomes, I mean, let's be real. He's kind of like Odell. I mean, obviously he's kind of having a better year, but in the sense of they do spectacular things, and when they can't, whether it be a hamstring injury, hand injury in the case of Odell, or an ankle injury in the sense of Patrick Mahomes, when they can't do what they are special, they're not that great. Not taking anything away from Mahomes, the guy's amazing. But when he can't scramble and do those behind the back no look passes to Travis Kelsey,
He's limited.
they're in trouble.
Yeah, he's totally limited.
Yeah, no doubt. For me, I actually have 2 teams from the same city that are pretty disappointing. And it's the city that we're currently in.
Oh no!
It's
I
the
was going to
two-
say I saw this coming.
Yeah, it's the 2 LA teams. So I actually thought that the Chargers were going to be amazing this year in the sense of before even in the offseason they lost Derwin James. I thought that their defense was great last year and that they had made some decent moves and that I really didn't think that Austin Eckler was that bad of a player. I'm a believer in Keenan Allen and I think Phillip Rivers is a winner. But they have proved me wrong. Um, Melvin Gordon has already caved and came back and really hasn't had an impact. They were doing better the first couple weeks of the season. Now they can't even get any protection for Rivers at all. He's getting just destroyed back there. Their running game went from averaging the most yards per carry to the least. And then you go to the Rams. They're trading guys like Patrick Peterson, or excuse me, Marcus Peters today. Breaking news to the Ravens, and I don't really see how they're helping themselves. I mean, Goff has been terrible. They got an offensive lineman today from the Browns, but big deal. Gurley's hurt. Their backup running backs are not up to the hype, and they have the three-headed monster at receiver. But if Goff is only passing for 74 yards, which he did
Oh my gosh.
74, it doesn't matter who you have catching the
It
ball.
doesn't matter. I mean, I think that defense is still really good. They're playing Atlanta this week. I think they're going to clean up. I think they're going to get back on track, that team.
Yeah, well,
That
so
is if their ownership hasn't given up on them for this year. I don't really understand the trade
I
that they
don't get the
made today.
trade. And Talib went on the IR yesterday, so now they have legitimately the 34th overall pick, stepping in as their number one corner. Yes, I said that number one corner in a division where you have some experienced quarterbacks such as Russell Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, those guys definitely know what they're doing.
And I want to make a bold prediction here.
Okay, okay.
A team that's flown under the radar because they haven't really beaten any great teams yet. It's the Bills.
Mm,
Bills are 4-1,
mm,
and I think they're going to be 8-2
wow.
because I mean they end up their next games are Dolphins, Eagles, which Eagles is probably going to be a L, Redskins, Browns, and then Dolphins again.
Oh,
And then they
wow.
have Broncos, Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots, Jets. So they end the
Huh.
season pretty tough. But they're going to be that team that's going to be like, hold up, are the Bills? The Buffalo Bills?
Like a 4 or 5 loss team.
Exactly.
Wow. Well,
They could sneak up on you. They have an easy schedule.
they
I
have
mean,
a great defense too.
yeah.
But what do you think about their quarterback?
Uh, who?
Yeah, exactly. No, seriously.
Wait, is it Marcus Mariota? No, wait. Is it Josh Rosen? Is it
No kind of combination.
is it hmm, I don't know. Who's the quarterback?
Some guy named Josh Allen.
Oh my gosh, who's Josh Allen? Didn't he
Yeah.
play for Boise State?
No, even worse. It was like Montana.
Oh no.
But all I know is that I kind of believe in him physically. I don't know where he's at in the sense of being able to play in the NFL, but I mean, the guy's a freak. He had the best 5 games to end the season last year of anybody, even better than Patrick Mahomes and people like that. But I believe in their defense. I don't know if their offense will be able to carry them ultimately to the max potential that they have, but I think that's a great point. They have an easy schedule and a good defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think their offense is good at
No,
all. I
no.
don't think this team was built really to be good. I
Leading
think,
receiver John Brown.
yeah, John Brown might as well be John Doe.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, so do you think Josh Allen could really? I mean, because you could get. I mean, if they keep playing the way they've been playing, they could get to 8-2, just with the next couple games they have coming up. But do you think he's good enough to beat those other teams? I don't think so.
Um,
Like the teams like the Ravens, who I've already said the Ravens this year are my good bad team, the bad team that beats up on all the really bad teams, but loses to the good teams.
the inconsistency. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
either them or the
personally,
Cowboys.
I mean, every year there's kind of that team that has 4, 5, 6 losses that makes the playoffs, and you're like, whoa, like maybe they're better than we thought. Like, is that a possibility? I don't think it is with the Bills, but I also don't think that they're horrible by any means. Um, Now, can he personally take them to the promised land? Get him some help at running back and receiver first,
Yeah,
and we'll
running
talk
back
about it.
first.
You mean the 41-year-old Frank Gore is not a good starting
I
running
mean, I think you could trade him for Adrian Peterson.
back? That's great. That is
It's a little step
fantastic.
up.
Oh my God! Speaking of trading, how about the U.S. and China and
Oh
what's going on
man,
in the NBA?
great segue, Evan. Great segue. I like that. So China and the NBA. You guys probably have heard a little something by now. You know, it's been a pretty intense issue since it all kicked off a couple weeks ago. I'd say around, yeah. The tweet started, it was posted by Daryl Morey, who's the GM of the Rockets. And he's pretty much like, it's so funny that it's him because Daryl Morey is like a GM that could pretty much work in any major American sport. He's that smart. I mean, he's written books. He's in charge of the whole new. He pretty much started the whole new wave of analytics, taking over the NBA, and how like pretty much why we're seeing the evolution of the 3-point ball and the stretch four. I mean, Daryl Morey is a genius for sure, and he's someone who's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's kind of done that in the past. But I don't think he really knew that he was going to spark an international incident.
Yeah, to the point where everyone's getting involved, governments, anything.
Trump,
yeah, yeah.
So on October 4th, Morey tweeted, and then he later deleted support for the ongoing protest in Hong Kong, which began and basically their Hong Kong is opposing a controversial legislation that would allow criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China. So the tweet said, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong," and it's really not very well received by Chinese. Not to mention that the NBA teams like the Lakers and the Nets were in China already and about to play an exhibition game. So, I mean, that pretty much kicked off a nightmare where now China was demanding an apology, and the NBA came out with an apology basically saying that they were that it was regrettable was the main thing that they said. And then the weird thing was the NBA statement in Chinese that they posted into China was way more apologetic than the one that was in English. So basically, the NBA got skewered for that. And Adam Silver got skewered for that. Not to mention, it was like 2 or 3 days after the tweet was sent. So they were late to the party, which is never a good look. I mean, rule number one, if you're going to have one of these big PR incidents, always move quick, fast. The longer you wait, the worse you look.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out to the listeners is that the Rockets are actually the most popular team in the world thanks to China and Yao Ming. They actually make more money off of China than they do any other team by a significant amount. So just to kind of put that out there, it's not like this guy had nothing to lose by putting that tweet out there. This was a major issue for someone who makes money from China.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of like contracts were suspended with specific NBA players. NBA Cares event with the Nets players in Shanghai was canceled. Um, Even though the NBA still said that they were going to make all the donations anyway that they were going to make,
they have to at that point,
right? So, I mean, it just ended up being really bad. The Chinese, I forget what the state-owned broadcast company is called, but they basically canceled every single Rockets game for the rest of the year. So Rockets are officially canceled in China,
which is huge for their viewership, which is huge for their just entire
CCTV.
Yeah, but it just in the sense of, I mean, you look at guys like James Harden, Steph Curry, LeBron, Yao Ming, Shaq, whoever it may be, and Kobe, they make tons of money from China. And just to be having this all of a sudden battle with them financially and spiritually doesn't help the NBA considering all these wild contracts they have and the huge upgrades in cap that they have every year, somewhat coming from the money they make off of China, which is the exact opposite of the NHL, which we talked about, and how they make no money because the Canadian dollar sucks.
I mean, basically putting it in lamest terms, if the NBA were to pull out of China completely, then you're probably looking at a cap hit of around $8 to $10 million for every NBA team.
Right.
Like the official cap would go down significantly. I mean, because the cap is based off of how much money you're pulling in. The more money that the NBA makes, the more money that these guys get paid.
Exactly.
So less money coming in, less money coming out. Simple economics.
Yeah.
And it's economics that I think, I mean, people are saying that, like LeBron, are saying that Daryl Morey wasn't educated on this subject or spoke without thinking or tweeted without thinking, rather. But I mean, I think he was, personally. Daryl Morey's a pretty smart guy. I don't think he knew that it was going to get like this.
Look, I think that he was putting out a tweet based off of his political or whatever it be, just feelings in general, and had no idea that 3 days later he'd have to have a worldwide apology.
But it's the NBA, Evan. Like, isn't this supposed to be the league that wants you to do that and wants you to speak your mind?
Well, at least they used to.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it all last year with Steve Kerr stepped up and spoke out against Trump a
Right.
couple of
Same
times,
with Popovich.
and LeBron. And now we're seeing pretty much all of those guys fall back. And I mean, it's the first time with LeBron's whole like shut up and dribble, like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm more than an athlete and I'm going to speak out against these topics. His comment was basically like, well, I thought Daryl Morey was uneducated. And then they asked him, and he was like, I'm going to leave that to other people to discuss the context of, or, uh, or the substance. Is what he said. He's like, I'll leave it for other people excuse me, to discuss the substance of this tweet. And that to me just really made me mad because I'm like, LeBron, you run the NBA Players Association. You've always stood up and spoken out against people being treated unjustly. And guys, guys in college. I mean, you were right next to Gavin Newsom just last week while he signed the bill letting college players get paid in California. And you can't even have a comment on these people losing basic freedoms in China, a place where you go and make tons of money.
Well, there's two things there, though. What you just said, it lines his pocket.
Yeah.
Money. And it also has to do with the fact that LeBron James doesn't really care about anybody besides himself. And when it comes to this, he's Mr. Whistleblower when it's in his own country. I mean, God forbid there was an incident with an African American man. I'm sure he'd speak on it.
Well, I mean, he already
China.
did.
No, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's China. He doesn't care. He's like, they
Yeah.
make me money. I'm going to comment how I should, and they should continue to line my pockets.
9 people dead and around 50, I think over 50,000 people injured. I mean, the Hong Kong police have just been cracking skulls out there. And, he's over there and he's like, well, I thought it was a selfish tweet. No, LeBron, I think what you're doing right now is selfish.
Exactly.
Like, I think what you're doing right now is very selfish. And you're the guy who's supposed to be holier than thou, Mister. I'm the guy that I speak on everything, and you can't tell me to shut up and dribble. Well, LeBron, you're shutting up and dribbling right now, and it's showing. Your silence is deafening.
Yeah, no, that's just great, great, great point. Now talking about somewhat selfishness and not looking at the full picture. For my segment this week, I want to kind of bring up the fact that the commissioners and the owners are not quite staying in contact with the advancements in technology of sports and the advancements of people becoming bigger, faster, stronger, and how they're somewhat ruining the beauty of sports, how they work.
But Ben Roethlisberger got fined on the sidelines for wearing an Apple Watch. What do you mean, Evan?
You're right. You know what? I'm sorry. I take it all back. Well, actually, what I'm talking about is things like in the NHL, they had a big movement to try to get some more scoring. So they made the goalies' pads smaller, give more room. Like we were talking about earlier, they considered making the goal bigger, goal smaller. They wanted to make multiple changes.
Yeah.
They tested them all.
Basically, the problem is that, I mean, goalies. I mean, the NHL. So organized now at the top of the game. This is the top of hockey, where the goalies are just bigger. They're just
Yeah,
way bigger than they used to be. So,
totally.
I mean, they didn't know that these guys were all going to be 7 foot monsters out there guarding the goal.
Right. So they decided to make the goalies pads smaller, but at the same time, they also made the flex on a hockey stick bigger, which is the reaction when it collides with the puck. It kind of gives it a flinging motion. It adds a little bit of speed and power to it.
Yeah, like a coil, like a bend.
Exactly. They have the same technology in metal baseball bats and even wooden baseball bats. But what they didn't realize is that both those things happened at the same time, and now they're blowing away every single goal record, just like the MLB blows away all the home run records. There's only been 4 shutouts all season so far in the first 2 weeks of hockey, 3 weeks of hockey.
Oh my gosh.
That's not heard of.
That's unheard of completely. We're a sport last year that they were getting upset because these teams were averaging like 3 points a game.
The Kings were averaging under 3 goals a game, and now they're averaging 6.5.
Oh my god. So they essentially it's like they're juicing the pucks.
Right.
But it's not the pucks.
But it's not the puck. So what I'm trying to make the point of is that in the crisis of trying to get more fans, like I said, whether it be the MLB, the NHL, whatever, they don't understand that these guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger, and excuse me, the technology is getting better. And that when you combine those things with making the pad smaller, every shot seems like a goal, and it's boring.
Yeah. I mean, it so like these guys are basically they can just line up and then just pass the puck around a couple times and then just slap shot off on these
Right,
guys.
right. And I've actually noticed a few times where it's like the puck just goes over the pad, and it's like 2 years ago that's a save, and it's a great save. And yeah, maybe the game is 3-2 instead of 5-4, but who cares? It's more entertaining. There's more hits. There's less goals.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was more. It was more of a technique, more of a. You actually had a strategy. Now it's like I'm gonna put 40 shots on net, and I'm gonna expect to score 5.
Right.
And
Hockey's always been a defensive game.
right,
I mean, and it's
exactly.
really, I mean, your shifts have to be right. You have to cut, and everyone's got to be constantly moving in order to get the defense out
Yep.
of position.
Yep. And now it's like, oh, 2-on-1 score every time. There's no spectacular saves anymore. There's no big hits. It's kind of, as a hockey fan, true blue hockey fan, it's kind of just disgusting. And same goes for baseball. For me, I mean, you have guys who had a record of 10 home runs in their whole career. Record. Hit 30 this year. 30.
Wow.
That's not heard of. And it seems to be, and I've heard this from multiple people, that every time the ball makes contact with the bat, it's a fly ball, but it looks like it's going to be a home run. There's less ground balls, and everything seems to be going far. And that's because they didn't realize at the same time, just like hockey, these guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger. The bat technology is getting better. And now they juice the baseball and they admitted to it, and things are just flying out of the park. And I've never particularly been a fan of pitcher's duels, especially when you're at the game. It's a little boring. You kind of expect to have a little bit more fun than that. But smashing home run records by 200?
Yeah, I mean, these home run bonanzas that are going on now,
Yeah.
they're not that much fun either.
Well,
I mean,
and
you just get to cheer every time it goes out the park.
what happened to guy gets on first, you bunt him over to second, you got one out. You hope that a guy gets him to third or hits him home with a single, and it's there's strategy to it. You don't expect, okay, we're down 2, but we can actually come back at any point.
And
It used
those
to
are,
be
and yeah,
not that way.
and those are like the nuances of the game where like it's
Right,
moving quick
right.
and it's action packed, and you're
Uh-huh.
like, man, these guys are like they're thinking on their feet while like making a throw from like third to first in a split second. Like,
Yep. Now it's like, oh, little Johnny from the minor leagues who used to be irrelevant hit 20 home runs and only batted 230, but he hit 20 home runs. It's like, I don't care. I want to see them put the ball in play. I want to see somebody do something with it.
so what do you think that the leagues, meaning the
Yeah.
NHL and the MLB, what do you think that they can do to still get fans and make the sport interesting to watch and have goals and
So I'm gonna
but still
be.
keep it even?
So I've thought about this, and my my conclusion with baseball is a little or I mean, excuse me, with hockey is a little less known because I haven't played in this era per se. Like I don't know how it feels to use these super sticks and these small goalie pads. Where baseball, I do know what's going on with the balls. Um, for hockey, I would really give back half of the height that they got rid of on the goalie pads. I don't think you need to change anything else. I just think that a few more saves a game would do us some good instead of literally like anytime a team has a lead, every shot feels like it's going to go in, and that's just a weird feeling. It shouldn't be that way. And then for the MLB, you just got to bring back more of a normal baseball. Doesn't have to go back to when it was, 5 years ago, but just a little less bounce. I want to see a guy fly out to shallow left field instead of at the warning track.
Right.
Um, so that's what I would do. And also, the last thing that I kind of want to hit on is the NFL. I have never seen more people get knocked out than I ever have this year. In the sense of like you get hit in the head and they go out cold,
Yeah, and the game's supposed to be getting safer.
which it's not.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
we know
understand.
we all know like how do you make this game safe,
you,
dude?
you gotta start. There's gotta be a way to make the helmets better. Now, it'd be ugly as could be to have padding on the outside, but why can't they figure out something like that where there's an extra cushion before? And like I said, it'd be ugly. It's different. I'm not saying that's the answer, but there's gotta be a way that when someone hits head to head, because it's clearly inevitable, it's clearly not avoidable. These guys are going too fast. They're too strong. There's got to be something you can do to protect the head and neck because I've seen too many guys question retirement. Too many guys get knocked out, and too many guys come back from it right away like it's nothing when that's not normal.
Yeah, I mean that hit on the Pittsburgh quarterback. I can't remember his name right now, but
Mason Rudolph, and then
yeah.
also there was a hit on Jamal Williams, the backup,
Oh
well, the
yeah,
split running back, I guess, in Green Bay. He was knocked out cold as well. He played last night, dominated. I mean, it's 2 weeks.
yeah,
I can't even imagine that.
yeah. That's pretty unbelievable.
Well, and it goes back to even Ryan Shazier. I mean, that guy was literally paralyzed from the neck down,
Yeah.
and now he's the most miracle story ever. But
Well, that was the scary thing when Rudolph was on this was like
yep,
laying there
yep,
just like, and they were like tapping his chest and he wasn't moving at all.
no,
And then they
there's
were
got
showing
to be something
Shazer on the
done.
sidelines. I mean, that was like I didn't like that at all. That made the whole that
It was kind of
really
uncomfortable,
it really made me uncomfortable. It creeped me out. It made me not want to watch football anymore.
and that's what I'm saying. How are we supposed to enjoy watching football if people are going to get hurt and it's going to be disgusting? How are we going to like hockey if every time you have a lead, you're going to lose it just because of the commissioner wanting some more goals? How are we going to feel about when Joe Smith from the minor leagues is going to hit 20 home runs and cash in a $30 million paycheck because of a juice ball? That's all I'm putting out there. There are solutions, and that's how I feel.
Yeah, and maybe the respective leagues will hear not this podcast. Hopefully they do, but
Hopefully, but
they'll hear the outcries of these players and the fans and be
yeah.
like, hey, maybe these changes we went a little too far. Time to dial it back a little bit.
No doubt, no doubt. And on that note, we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Any repeat listeners, thank you so much. Please feel free to comment, hit us up with emails, DMs, whatever you want. We're always interested in hearing from you guys. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.